Most people think their life is shaped by big decisions. The career they choose, the city they move to, the relationship they enter. But that's not how life actually works. Your future is usually decided by things so small you barely notice them. The way you wake up, the way you scroll, the way you react when you're tired, the things you repeat without thinking, tiny habits. And the terrifying part? Most people don't control them. They're controlled by them. Because once a behavior repeats enough times, your brain stops asking questions. It becomes automatic. And automatic behaviors quietly become your identity. That's why someone can wake up one day feeling completely stuck without understanding how they got there. Not because of one huge mistake, but because of hundreds of invisible routines repeated for years. And later in this video, I'll show you why some habits feel impossible to break, even when they're destroying your motivation, confidence, and focus. Because there's a psychological reason behind it, a reason most people never realize. Imagine two people, same age, same intelligence, same goals. But one of them wakes up and instantly checks their phone. Notifications, messages, short videos. Tiny dopamine hits before their brain is even fully awake. The other person spends 10 quiet minutes planning their day. Nothing dramatic, no motivational speech, no life-changing moment, just a tiny difference. But after 6 months, their minds look completely different. One has trained their brain for distraction. The other has trained their brain for attention. And attention is becoming one of the rarest skills on earth. That's the thing about habits. They don't look powerful in the moment. Nobody notices a single late night, a single skipped workout, a single hour wasted scrolling. But habits are not measured in moments. They're measured in repetition. A tiny action repeated daily becomes a personality. That's why successful people often seem disciplined. But most of the time, they're not using massive willpower every day. Their environment simply makes good behaviors easier and bad behaviors harder. Meanwhile, most people do the opposite. They rely on motivation, which is dangerous because motivation is emotional and emotions are unstable. Some mornings you feel unstoppable. Other mornings, even basic tasks feel heavy. So if your life depends on motivation, your consistency dies the moment your mood changes. Habits are different. Habits continue even when emotions disappear. That's why your current life is probably a mirror of your repeated behaviors, not your intentions. Everybody wants a better future. But very few people build systems that create one. And here's where things get uncomfortable. Your brain does not care whether a habit is good or bad. It only cares whether it's familiar. That's why people stay in routines that make them miserable. Because predictable pain feels safer than unfamiliar change. Read that again mentally. Predictable pain feels safer than unfamiliar change. That's why someone can hate procrastinating and still procrastinate every day. Why someone can hate doomscrolling and still spend 5 hours online. Why someone can want confidence while constantly repeating behaviors that destroy self-respect. Because habits create neurological comfort zones, and breaking them feels psychologically threatening, even when the habit is hurting you. This is why real change feels uncomfortable at first. Not because you're weak, but because your brain is trying to protect familiarity. Now here's the scary part nobody talks about. Tiny habits don't only shape actions, they shape self-image. Every repeated behavior becomes evidence. If you constantly delay important things, your brain slowly collects proof that you're unreliable. If you constantly quit, your mind starts identifying as someone who quits. But the reverse is also true. Every small promise you keep to yourself changes your identity. One workout, one focused hour, one disciplined morning. These seem tiny, but psychologically, they send a powerful message. I am someone who follows through. And identity changes everything. Because once people believe something about themselves, they start acting in alignment with it automatically. That's why confidence is not built through affirmations. It's built through evidence. Tiny evidence. Repeated daily. Modern life makes this even harder because entire industries are competing for your habits. Apps are engineered to steal attention. Algorithms study your behavior. Notifications interrupt your thinking before your thoughts can fully form. Your habits are profitable. That's why mindless routines are so dangerous today. Because if you don't consciously choose your habits, someone else will choose them for you. And eventually you won't even notice. You'll just call it normal. Checking your phone every 5 minutes becomes normal. Constant distraction becomes normal. Mental exhaustion becomes normal. And slowly you lose the ability to sit alone with your own mind. That's not an accident. That's conditioning. But here's the good news. Tiny habits can also rebuild a life. Not instantly, not magically, but quietly. The same way negative habits slowly destroyed momentum, positive habits slowly rebuild it. A 5-minute walk can become a fitness lifestyle. Reading 10 pages daily can change the way you think forever. Sleeping earlier can completely transform your emotional stability. Tiny actions seem weak because we judge them individually. But life is not shaped individually, it's shaped cumulatively. And the people who completely transform themselves usually start in ways that look almost invisible. That's why dramatic change rarely lasts. People try to change everything overnight. New routine, new personality, new life. And within 2 weeks, their brain collapses under the pressure. Real transformation is slower, more boring, more repetitive, but infinitely more powerful. Because consistency beats intensity every time. So maybe the question is not, what do I want my life to become? Maybe the better question is, what behaviors am I repeating every day? Because your habits are writing your future in real time, quietly, patiently, automatically. And one day your life will reflect them back to you. The scary truth is this: you do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. So if your habits stay the same, your future probably will too. But if tiny habits can slowly destroy a life, they can also slowly build one. One decision at a time, one morning at a time, one repeated action at a time. And most people will ignore this because it sounds too simple. But simplicity is often where real power hides. Because in the end, your life is rarely changed by one massive moment. It's changed by what you repeatedly do when nobody is watching. If this video made you think differently, subscribe to the Reading Arc. Because sometimes the smallest ideas change everything.